Well, hello. I'm Victor Vogel. Welcome to Chat with Vic. I spent most of my professional life and some of my semi retirement life assessing and evaluating people. And during this time, I've sort of chosen the path of you know, data and using data to collect information, to analyze it, and kind of reduce it down to draw conclusions about people and groups, and actually, especially about leaders. But more than any group of people, I've spent most of my time evaluating and helping leaders. Um, I feel I've got a great deal of expertise in really two categories after almost 40 years in the business. And one of those is leadership, and the other one's actually interpersonal communication, and they link together real well. I've learned much information by sensing people's behaviors and discerning their nonverbal behaviors, and that's a pretty significant issue that people have with leaders and communication. And why? Because communication is a critical vehicle for building trust between people. Without communication, you really don't have trust. Even as competent as I feel, I'm like everyone else regarding my relationships. I've failed to adhere to many communication concepts involving loved ones, particularly. I screw up a lot, but after every heated argument, I walk away from that argument and I kind of go cool down. And then I've got the knowledge, so to speak, to do I guess what in the military we used to call an after action report to determine what I said and how I screwed things up. Most of the time, it is me, and that's okay. It's okay to be human and falter, even many times. Not recognizing what you need and trying to improve is not okay. That might be simply not holding a grudge after an argument. It might even be mirroring what you said or did that caused the other person to feel uncomfortable, and then saying, I was wrong. I'm sorry I did that. Citing those behaviors sometimes helps clarify things for people. You can imagine your leader mirroring what he or she did when they did something wrong. How many times have you had a vigorous debate or a flat out argument with your boss and they just shut it down and never came back to admit they had done anything wrong? Or at least talk to you through what they believe you did wrong. Leaders avoid conflict like the plague, when in reality, those can be some of the most extraordinary learning experiences. They call it the school of hard knocks because conflicts restricts feedback. It cuts everything out. It just stops communication. You're caught up in an initial irrational yelling of the other person, and you fold your arms and you stop listening to their screaming. And either way, communication's over at that point. It's at this point that actually psychology kicks in, and that has to do with how you respond to that argument. How do you deal with it? And it has everything to do with your emotional intelligence and your character, which I guess probably most of you have read about in all the leadership books that are out there. They're hot topics. Well, that all starts with communication. Communication and emotional intelligence combine to build trusting relationships that can really endure conflict. And that's something you need to take some time and chew on. Do you think all this could happen on something like a social media network where you're restricted to 240 characters? Or you might have to rely on the dreaded thread where you start typing 240 characters and then you have to dot, dot, dot and do another 240 characters. Nobody ever reads to the bottom of those things because in America, we've been basically taught to get through stuff fast, not to go deep into it. If you can't say it in one or two sentences, you just don't get it said. That's a real sad thing because a lot of things need to have more information. They need to be talked about more give and take in the communication so feedback loops establish and you can learn and grow about what each of you are really saying until you get to the end. I don't know if you've ever made it through an argument without just walking away, but people who do usually end up sitting down and seeing the other person's point of view, each other's point of view, a little better than when they walked into the argument. So, kind of like in addition to these barriers to communication, with social media, you can't see the tears or the anguish you cause another person. And that's important when you're dealing with something like conflict. So if you're a leader and you're relying on emails and social media, or maybe just even a post-it note to state your feelings, you've lost your employees or loved ones at that point. I haven't seen many apologies on Twitter, or Facebook, or Instagram either. Of course, people might not know how much they misread the other person. I just had that happen to me just recently on Twitter. Someone was stating an emotional feeling about something on Twitter, and it caught me. It made me feel like I needed to offer some help based on my experience and my background. So I thought I'd help them and provide a thread, one of those dreaded threads, like a counseling session. But the problem is that person didn't want to be counseled. They just wanted to vent on Twitter and try to get other people to see their point of view. So in that case, we were both off the mark. Her, because I don't think Twitter's a place that'll work. Me, because I couldn't tell anything about what she was saying from a nonverbal perspective, so I didn't know her real emotions. And so when you don't get the nonverbal aspect of your communication, you miss about 70% of the meaning of what they're trying to say. I might have been able to pick up if I had a conversation face to face or even across Zoom like this. I might have been able to pick up that, she wasn't interested in me providing any information to her. She didn't criticize what I said. She didn't get to the point, I think, of reading it all. She just blamed me for offering it without asking when she didn't want it. And she thought that might interfere with what she was trying to say to other people. And it might have, I don't know. So, but I told you there are no experts in communication. Just some of us know a little bit more than others. So I immediately apologized and deleted everything associated with that tweet. And I recognize I violated the basic principle of relying on not even verbal communication, but written communication to make a judgment about something. That was wrong. That was crazy wrong. My point is, social media tends to destroy effective communication. It disseminates a lot of information quickly, but it often inhibits effective information or communication. At its worst, it is the vehicle that promotes misinformation very quickly. I doubt if Trump could have unduly influenced all these millions of Americans that he has if they were not relying on Twitter posts. He used Twitter to follow up consistently with his rally propaganda. It wasn't so much that Twitter was convincing people, but if they went to the rally, then they just got more tied in because Twitter was a way he could continue that lie, even lies, and just continue pumping it into people until all of a sudden they began to ask, well, maybe it isn't a lie. Trump's an example of how a lousy leader can communicate wrong information more efficiently and quickly. So, just some notes to ponder on communication and leadership. If you're a leader, have you thought about these issues and how they impact your employees? Or do you even care? These are the short but exciting discussions that I have with leaders who take advantage of my new leadership development tool, Chatting with Vic, or Chat with Vic. I'm available on my website, victorvogel.com, and I'm available on Fiverr.com. Just look up Victor Vogel. If you want to grow, come on, let's chat. I find these informal conversations to be really enjoyable and enlightening. I learn a lot and they learn a lot, and they walk away from the conversation. There's no report, there's no summary, there's just talking to each other and listening and trying to understand and help. That's what I'm trying to do in these conversations. And they're casual and they're relaxing conversations. So come and join me. I'll see you next time we're in a conversation. Go ahead and register for one. I'm Victor Vogel. Till I talk with you. Catch you later.